Smartphones are becoming more and more popular every single day. More and more people are buying them, and the price of a smartphone has increased drastically over the past few years. And a lot of people don't want to buy the brand new phone just because it's expensive. So in this video, I'm going to be answering the question, should you buy a used smartphone in 2021? What is up guys, I'm Benji from BenObi Tech and welcome back to another video. So this video is going to be divided into three sections. The first one being the pros to buying a used smartphone. And the second part is going to be about the cons to buying a new smartphone. And the third part will just be some advice and some tips that I would recommend when buying a used smartphone. So without any further ado, let's get into them. So the first pro on the list is the price. That's probably the biggest reason why you would be considering to buy a used smartphone, simply because you can get the latest and greatest for a lot less. And the upside to buying it from someone local or a friend or a family member is that you can even negotiate the price and get it for a smaller price than what they originally asked for. The second pro to buying a used smartphone is that sometimes people, they collect cases and accessories for the phone, and sometimes they would sell it as a bundle. They would sell you the phone, the case, a couple of chargers and things like that. Of course, it depends where you're getting it from, but in some cases, you can be getting a lot more than just the phone for a pretty good price. The third pro to buying a used smartphone is the storage. You can get more storage for a smaller price. The fourth pro is it's better for the environment. Recycling is a lot better than throwing it away. In a world where more and more people are buying new smartphones, if you're the one who goes and buys a used smartphone and you recommend others do the same, it'll eventually make a big impact on the environment and make the world we live in a lot cleaner and a lot better. The fifth one is that it's less of a loss if it breaks. If you go and buy the latest iPhone 12 Pro, which it costs $1,000, and then let's say the back cracks. You go to Apple and you'll probably have to pay around $500 just to get the whole phone replaced. And at that point, you spent half more of what you originally spent for that iPhone. But if you buy a used phone, you don't have to worry that much. Like, you break the back, it's okay. You only spent $600 for it. You can easily go to a third-party repair shop and get it fixed, or even go to Apple themselves and get it fixed. Number 6 is that the value won't drop as much over time. When you buy a brand new iPhone and then you sell it a year later, you lose quite a bit. For example, when I bought my iPhone 10 back in 2017 when it was first released, I paid around £1,100 for the 256 gigabyte model, and about a year and a half later I sold it for only £500. I lost quite a lot of money out of that. You'll lose a lot less money if you end up selling a used phone over a brand new one. So those are the pros to buying a used smartphone. What about the cons? So the first con is that you can easily get scammed. Now, of course, this completely depends on where you get it from. There's a lot of scammers on eBay. There's a lot of scammers on Facebook, on Craigslist. All of these different websites, you're bound to find a scammer every now and then. So you have to be very careful about who you're buying it from, where you're buying it, etc, etc. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on in the video, but it's definitely something you should consider. The second con to buying a brand new phone is that, of course, it's not going to be brand new. So it may have issues, it may have scratches, it may have damage. And of course, it won't have that fresh new feel that a brand new phone does. All the way from opening the packaging, setting it up for the first time. The third con is, of course, because it's not brand new, the longevity is not going to be as long. If you buy a phone that's 2 years old, you'll only be getting another 4 years of software updates with Apple, as opposed to buying a brand new iPhone, which will give you up to 6 years of software updates. The fourth con is that it will most likely no longer be under warranty, which means that if you have an issue, you won't be able to go back to Apple and say, hey, my phone's broken. It's not my fault. It's a hardware problem. Now, of course, it depends on what phone you get, but if you were to go and get a phone that's about 2 years old or more, you're most likely not going to have any warranty on that thing. And the fifth con is because it's a used phone, you most likely won't have the proof of purchase. So when you're going and getting the item replaced from a company, and if you're in the UK and you want to do it under consumer law rights because it's not your fault, like say the battery exploded or something like that, which hopefully doesn't happen to you, won't have the proof of purchase, which means they won't be able to replace the device for you. And there's a number of other things where having a proof of purchase is useful. So that's definitely something to consider. The sixth con to buying a used smartphone is the fact that it might have been tampered with. You might have had an unauthorized repair. Maybe somebody decided to have their friend Joe have a shot at fixing their screen, but then you want to take it to Apple and get it fixed, or you want to take it to Samsung and get it fixed, but they won't fix it because it's already been tampered with. And that could kind of be a deal breaker in some ways, but it's not that big of a thing to worry about, especially if the item is no longer covered under warranty. So those are a few of the pros and cons to buying a used smartphone. Now let's say you still want to go ahead with it, you still want to buy a used smartphone. Let me give you guys some advice. Buy from someone local. You could buy from Facebook Marketplace, you've got Shpock, you've got Depop, you've got Craigslist in America, and a few other options that you can go and dabble in. And the best tip for this is make sure it's someone in your local area that you can meet up with, because you don't want to end up paying for the product and then them never sending it to you, or buying the product and then they send it to you and it's not the way you expected it. Maybe it has some extra damage that you weren't expecting, and that could also result in you getting scammed and a bunch of other things that you don't want to get into. So my advice is meet in person and meet somewhere public. Don't go to this person's house. Don't make them come to yours, because that could even be a security threat. Unless you have like a lot of security over your house, then that might be something you can consider doing. But in my experience, I would highly recommend meeting in like a cafeteria or somewhere where there's going to be a lot of people around, where if something happens, you can just shout and you've got someone that's there that can come and help you, whatever happens. Also, another practice that is very helpful just to make sure you don't get scammed is to ask for the IMEI number, and going into like imei.info and putting in the IMEI number, making sure that it's unlocked, all this other stuff, making sure that the phone is clean from being blacklisted from a network, those kind of things. You don't want to buy a phone that's iCloud locked either, so make sure you get the IMEI number either previous to meeting with the person or while you're there in person, just to check that everything's okay. And because you're meeting in person, also make sure you check things like the battery health, check if it's iCloud unlocked, check if it's unlocked from a network, check how much storage it's got, check that everything is in working order, because you don't want to meet up with someone, say, hey, how are you? Here's money, give me your phone, and then settle it that way. That's probably not the best option. Also, I would recommend not paying cash, because sometimes when you're buying a phone, you're spending quite a lot of money, and carrying cash around is probably not the best idea. Use something like a bank transfer or PayPal, whatever the other person prefers. But of course, probably the best option for buying a used phone is to buy it from a website that refurbishes the phones and makes sure they're all fixed and then sells them out. But of course, that's a more expensive option. You could spend a little bit more, but you don't want to spend as much as a brand new phone costs. You can go ahead and get it refurbished or get it from another store that sells them. So there you go. Those are some pros and cons to buying a smartphone, some tips and tricks that you can now use when you go and buy a smartphone to get the best deal you can. If you have absolutely any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments below. And if you have any ideas or any other pros and cons or any other tips that you have, drop those in the comments below as well. If you're new to the channel, make sure to click here to subscribe and turn on your notifications, so then you'll be notified every time I upload a video. You can get to my videos early and you won't miss an upload. And also click here to watch one of my most recent videos. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Benji from BenObi Tech, and I'll see you all in the very next video.